Good morning, everybody. Welcome into the Auburn Blitz podcast. Glad to have you join us here on this Thursday morning. By the way, as you see, we got 3 boxes on the screen instead of 2 today, and we're glad to make an announcement here on the Auburn Blitz podcast. We got Faith Richardson officially joining our team here, and we're excited. She interned with us in the fall, and boy, that went by fast. And now she is a new Auburn graduate, and she is out here in the real world with the rest of us, Randy. And we're welcoming Faith in here today on the Auburn Blitz podcast. She's going to be joining us, man. We're excited. Welcome aboard, Faith.
Hey, guys. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. Yeah, the fall went by so fast. I actually don't know how that was, just a couple months ago when I first met y'all. And here we are now. I don't think I ever would have thought that it would have gone this far, but I'm so excited and happy it has.
Randy, you and I were just at Auburn. I mean,
we don't lie. Everyone's got eyes, I think, and they can see the monitor and tell that either Faith's holding up a lot better than you and I, or we're getting old. And it's the latter. We are getting really old, but it's a new day and age in the media business, and Faith has got to be excited about that. And the reason that I say that, and I told Faith, and we'll pass it along to everybody out there, it's not the old day where you've got to go and get the TV gig, which I'm sure Faith would be outstanding with, but there's a lot of people out there that are doing podcasts and other media outlets, and there's so many different ways to get your message out there. So, Brett, I know if you and I were coming out 25, 27, 30, I don't even know. I don't even want to sit back and think about how long ago it was when we graduated from Auburn. It would have been wonderful to have these outlets to be able to do this. So we're excited to bring Faith on board. We have no plans to keep doing the same old. We wanted to bring some ideas to the table. So we'll put some contact information out there for Faith also as we move on. And hopefully she can get over to the university and catch up with some of the players. And I know that's something you're looking forward to, Faith.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just kind of, I don't think y'all are that old, but just bringing some fresh eyes and kind of some new perspective, especially, I graduated a month and 2 days ago. So kind of also
who's counting, right?
Yeah, who's counting? I can't believe I can say I'm a graduate. That's so weird, and I don't think I like that, but it is what it is.
Hey, well, look, I have all the confidence in the world that Randy, you and I will see Faith with the SEC Network, with ESPN at some point in time. But I did tell her yesterday, just because she moves up to the SEC Network doesn't mean that she's going to leave the Auburn Blitz. I mean, look, I interviewed Maria Taylor on Press Row at SEC Media Days, like literally her first interview. She probably don't remember it, and I don't blame her. But like one of her first interviews coming down Press Row, and the SEC Network had not even started yet. It had just launched, and they had just hired her, and we were talking about where your allegiance stands because she's a Georgia graduate. And I said, well, okay, now, Maria, you're going to be working for the SEC. You can't be barking at everybody like you guys do at Georgia. She said, oh, let me just tell you, I'm always going to be a Georgia Bulldog. I may cover everybody. And look at where Maria Taylor's gone in her career. And, man, she hosts Monday night football roundtable stuff. I mean, she's
great. Up. You knew it the first moment that you met her. You were like, whatever it is, she's got. She had all the confidence in the world. Faith does too. We've got another intern that you had with you yesterday afternoon, Brett, that I think is going to be an outstanding broadcaster or personality also in Maddie. So excited to be working with Auburn University. Maybe give that plug out there, Brett, on old relationships and how much they have helped you out. And I am aging you. 25 years ago, you graduated, but you still have some great relationships in that communications department.
Yeah, that does really make me sound old when you say 25 years ago. That's a quarter of a century just for all you counting out there. So it does.
In 2 days, Brett.
That's it. A month and 2 days. See, one day you'll be saying 25 years, Faith. Look, Rick Smith. Everybody knows who Rick Smith is. He's the voice of Auburn on game days in Jordan-Hare Stadium. The public address announcer. He's been teaching, and this is where now if Rick. This will probably get back to Rick. I told him, I said, man, you talk about the one that's old. I said, you're the one that's old. I said, you're sending me interns. I said, you taught me. And I said, and you're still there teaching. And so we like to cut up and laugh. Randy and I have met with Rick numerous times and never have had a chance to get a streamline going. We've had good intentions for several years, probably going back 10 years, and met for lunch multiple times. And finally, Rick said, look, I've got somebody, and if you don't take this, I quit. And I said, okay. I said, we're going to make this work. So that's how Faith got with us in the fall. And Faith's got a great background as far as working with WSFA already and getting that experience. And then she jumped right in with us with the AHSA network and helped with that show on the road that we started this fall that will resume here in a couple of weeks. That's gotten so much buzz around the state. So we're excited to have Faith and excited about our partnership with Auburn University and the interns. And we get calls pretty frequently about people wanting to join our team. So we're excited, and we're about to dive in to the podcast this morning, but we did want to spend a little time to welcome Faith in as part of our team. Our podcast brought to you every single day by Sense of Green for air that's cool and clean. Call on Sense of Green. They are the carrier experts here in the state of Alabama. We couldn't do the podcast without them. And Scout Program Management, a full-service construction management firm from pre-construction planning through the process of building whatever it is that you need to have built. Call on Scout Program Management up in Birmingham. Those guys are outstanding to work with. And then we'll talk about bunkers a little bit later on, along with Sign Source Lee Apparel. And also got maybe one or two more about to come on board with us, and then we're shutting it down. So, okay, we're not going to make this into a TV show. I said that's not what we're going to do. Yes, we like to make money, and we love good partners, and we appreciate everybody reaching out to us, but we're going to probably add two more here in the near future, and then we're not going to be overburdening you with ads, but the ones we do have, we really appreciate it. All right, guys, 4 games into the SEC schedule for everybody. It kind of lays out the way it is. There's only 2 undefeated teams left. It's Ole Miss and it's Auburn. And we saw Tennessee and Georgia last night, and I'll kind of start there and we'll go around the room. Georgia, it looked like it was going to be a rock fight through halftime with Tennessee. And Randy, I'll start with a point you made yesterday. Georgia fans feel like they're on the cusp of having a program that's going to take that next step in basketball. But you got to go on the road and win some of these big games if you want to start taking that next step. And look, for a half, they looked competitive, and they were right there. It was a low-scoring game, and I started to have my doubts on whether Tennessee's really as good as everybody thought they were. And then they came out in the second half and exploded and blew Georgia out. So Georgia, for a half, competitive, but then got blown out, and Tennessee with Ziegler kind of stepped up and ran away with them in the second half.
Well, they needed that win because Tennessee's got to hold suit and try to hang in there. And then I'll kick to Faith just a second. But the thing about Georgia that I'm seeing that maybe she can speak to from a fan base standpoint is you look outside the arena when Georgia's at home, and they're wrapped around the arena ready to come in. And it's much like the student body that I think was out there around lunch on Tuesday getting set to go in the game. And, when you get the buzz around the program like that you've got a coach that's marketing and advertising that program and getting a lot of buzz around them, and it's needed. So, Faith, I'll kick up to you. You've been there at Auburn when it's been really, really good the entire time basketball-wise. Was it something that sold you on Auburn? I mean, was that something that you were looking forward to when you're coming there, to be a part of a student body that was as rabid as Auburn when it came to basketball?
Well, when I came to Auburn, I had the pleasure of living in the dorm that is literally right across the entrance of Neville Arena. And so when the students were lining up, that was all outside of my dorm and outside of, where I was walking in and stuff like that. And so I'd be walking back from class, and all of my classes were mandatory. So I wasn't able to go sit outside and wait 2 days like some of those people were camping out and all that kind of stuff. And I want to say it was Kentucky when they started camping out three nights ahead, and it was a pouring rain game. And I mean, this is 3 years ago, but it was probably, one of the like most wild things I think I've ever seen, because I never wanted to camp out. So I had the pleasure of actually being able to kind of, once that line got set in, kind of walk my way just because we were right there. But I mean, 11 a.m. game days, it didn't matter who we were playing at 7 o'clock in the morning. You could hear Neville Arena, because that's when they start doing all their pregame stuff. And my dorm was shaking because of that. And so, I mean, the student body is so, it plays such a factor in, the actual playing of the team. And so being away is obviously also, really hard, because think about all the other, good teams, especially teams like Georgia, that there's a rivalry there that they want to beat Auburn and, the number one team in the country, and, that kind of stuff. So I think hopefully we're going to have a bunch of students, going on the road and going to the game, because at South Carolina, we obviously saw that helped when they were saying how Auburn travels. There were a lot of Auburn fans there.
That is wild, Brett. It's an easier ticket to get a road game than it is a home game. You said it yesterday. I mean, the price point to get in any of the Neville Arena games it's ridiculous. Far higher than just getting in the car and driving 3 or 4 hours to get to a different event. And it's amazing what Bruce Pearl's built there at Auburn when it comes to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Last year I go back to the midweek game against South Carolina. South Carolina, believe it or not, how fast things change in a year. They're the bottom dwellers now in the SEC. But last year, around, I think it was actually on Valentine's Day. Auburn played South Carolina on a Tuesday or Wednesday night, and they were the number one team in the league, and Auburn beat them by 40. And that Saturday, Auburn had Kentucky coming in, and it was game day. And people were camping outside of Neville. As soon as they left the game with South Carolina, they just turned around and went and stood in line. And I'm like, what? I'm like, are you kidding? And I'm like Faith, since you and I, Randy, went to every class, we weren't able to go and do stuff like camp out for 2 or 3 days, right? Yeah, mandatory. But still, even if you don't have
I miss classes, Brett?
I'm just saying that that
okay,
that word
you're
mandatory,
right.
The word mandatory didn't really apply to a lot that we did. So
my dad would ask, he'd be like, "Why aren't you going to the basketball game or whatever?" And I'd be like, "Because I don't have the time to miss class." And he was like, "People camp out that early?" And I was like, "Dad,
well, I think people need to realize that
days in advance." He was like, "Someone can't hold your spot." I was like,
no,
it's raining. I'm not going to go sleep out in the rain. I don't have, bring me the tent, and I might, but
I think people don't understand that students can't just walk up and go to the game. My son's at Auburn, and I asked him the other night, I said, "You going to the Mississippi State game?" He goes, "Well," and he's getting toward the end of his Auburn time, and he's in his final year, and he's like, Dad, I can't miss this class at 3:30. And he said, he said, "I probably won't get in if I get there after this class." So he said, "I'm not going to stand in that line." It's great that you have to plan ahead to get in, but man, there's a lot of students that love and would love to go to the game, can't get in.
Well, Brett, let's go back and make a point to Faith. When we were in school, outside of 1 year, how easy was it to get in the ball game?
Well, I mean, a can of soup. I mean, if you gave to the local food bank, you brought you a can of Campbell soup, they gave you not just one ticket, too. So in seriousness, we had one season in '99 that was really, really good, and Auburn was good that year. But now with a smaller arena and the level that Bruce Pearl's got in this program, it is it's as tough a ticket as what Duke students and fans have to experience. And it is going on the road, getting a ticket a lot easier. We talked about the 200-mile radius schools like South Carolina, like Mississippi State, Ole Miss, even Tennessee and Vanderbilt. you can get in the car and go get a ticket and go watch Auburn cheaper than you can getting a ticket off StubHub for Neville Arena, which is wild. And by the way, if you want to go to Baton Rouge, $11 a ticket if you want to go watch Auburn. I pulled that up last night. So you could about go sit courtside if you wanted to give them a couple $100 a ticket. They'd escort you down to the.
It'll be 75% full with Auburn fans with price points like that. It will.
I think having, as much of it kind of being hard not to, go to some of the games because you have to camp out. I just think that also kind of like expresses the student body. And I mean, it also says a lot about Coach Pearl and about some of the players. Really, they are going out and they're bringing pizza, Chick-fil-A sandwiches, donuts, all that to all the students that are camping out. And I think not only does that just kind of show that, the coaches are grateful that students are doing that and they are taking out the time to do that, those kinds of things, but also just, I feel like it just shows the Auburn family more than, I mean, I don't know about any other schools, but just more than some of the other colleges and universities in the SEC or just like in general, because I don't feel like, especially people as well known as Bruce Pearl, that just kind of shows the Auburn family and how he's an Auburn man and all the players are too.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Unfortunately, Auburn, the schedule hasn't been the toughest in the SEC so far for Auburn. Auburn is 4-0, but they have a win against Texas, who they played Oklahoma last night, and that was the battle of 0-3s, and Texas squeaked that one out. So Texas is they're going to be a bottom dweller. South Carolina, look, they play tough, but the proof's in the pudding. They're 0-4 now. They went to Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt, Faith, you and I talked to Linda yesterday, and she was going to the game, and she's like, Randy, they list every player on the roster at Vanderbilt as a point guard. I don't know why you're not trying to deceive anybody that way, because you can look down and see that everybody's small, but Vanderbilt's not very good either. They squeak out a win against South Carolina. South Carolina's 0-4. And of course, last night, Tennessee knocked off Georgia 74-56. And that game was horrible through halftime. I mean, it looked like two really, really bad teams. I want to say the game was it 26-24 at halftime? I want to say Tennessee was up 26-24 at halftime, and I thought, boy, these teams – and Tennessee, we've questioned about their offense, but Zakai Ziegler came out and did a really good job in the second half. I think he had he ended up with 16 points. Gainey actually led them with 19, but Ziegler had a terrible first half and then came out in the second half and really helped pull things away. But that's a wrap on the second full week of conference play. And that, if you look at the standings, guys, you got Auburn and Ole Miss, and then you got several at 3-1, Tennessee, Alabama, Kentucky. That Missouri team that just went on the road and beat Florida, the lone loss they have is us. You better watch this Missouri team, y'all. They're good. They're making a case, and they're sitting right there, one game out of first place.
Very physical team. When you play them, you know what you're going to get there. But Brett and I had a little back and forth yesterday, Faith, with Mississippi State. After you get 4 to 6 games in, you are who you're. Yeah, of course you are who your record says you are, but you're also are who you say you are on the defensive side. And with Mississippi State,
Right.
They've given up an average of 92 points per game in their last two SEC matchups. You're not seeing that with Missouri, Brett. I think they are getting better. I'm glad we got them early. Glad we got them done with, and then we'll take our chances against some of these big time. The thing that I'm seeing with the SEC right now, though, that I hope plays out as the season moves on, I don't think Alabama's shooting the ball anywhere near where they were from the perimeter.
No.
Does it mean they can't get their shooting touch back at home? I didn't see it the other night, so that's hopeful for Auburn. And I do believe if we defend the perimeter the way that we are against Tennessee, that they're going to struggle shooting the basketball. So as long as we're efficient on the offensive end, Faith, I really like our chances against those two teams. And coming into the season, those were the two teams along with Florida and Kentucky, that I was most worried about.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Chaney Johnson, who's, season, if you look at last year, his season has completely, I feel like, done a full 180. His offense abilities are, I feel like, more consistent than they were last year for sure. And then, I mean, even without Janai, I know y'all have talked about this some, but I mean, Dylan Cardwell obviously has stepped up a ton, but not just him. I feel like everybody kind of has, stepped up in that aspect of, just because we've lost one player doesn't mean our whole season's going to be over like a lot of people thought, but also just what more can we do to kind of prove to everybody that we still are that team. And it's not so much of, I mean, obviously down on defense, we've got plenty of, good guys that are able to do some of the same things that Janai was able to do. But on offense too, I mean, he was becoming one of our 3-point shooters, and Chad Baker-Mazara now has, I mean, before he was already kind of that guy that you throw the ball down there and he just doesn't even look, I feel like, at the hoop the whole entire time. And he's on the floor just as shocked as everybody else is. But I mean, I feel like there's just so much in our offensive game and defensive game that it's just not as much of a concern as I kind of thought it was going to be, this deep into the season.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point. I know this probably is going to sound stupid to some people, but I think Auburn, of all teams, could afford to lose their best player more than anybody else. And not for a long time. I'm not saying for a season, but if you had a team that could weather the storm, it would probably be Auburn because of their depth and because of what Bruce Pearl said the other day, as far as, hey, we got enough talent to spread this thing around. We've just got to figure out how to make up for the things that Janai, and there's some things you can't make up for. But the points, yeah, you can spread that around and guys can get better shots and more shots and stuff like that. But I think if Zakai Ziegler went out with Tennessee, that team would crash. I think if Mark Sears went out for Alabama, I think they would crash. I think if you took Clayton off of Florida, I think, or Condon down low, I think they would not be anywhere near the same team. And Auburn's not the same team without Janai Broome, don't get me wrong, and he's the leading candidate for player of the year. But if any team can lose a player and it be their best player and still semi keep going in the same direction, it's Auburn, and it's because of this depth.
Well, I think Faith makes a great point. It's development too, Brett, because Chaney was a good, and it's also player evaluation with Bruce Pearl and his staff. I mean, look at these guys. Well, let's go through the ones that Faith just brought up, and I'll add Denver Jones in the mix. All of them were at smaller schools, Janai Broome included.
Mid-majors.
So it's really hard to go and measure a mid-major and get it right a majority of the time. Look, J.P. Pegues is a prime example this year. That guy averaged 18 points per game. He doesn't play. It just didn't transition. But for the most part, the evaluation that this coaching staff has done has really boded well for Auburn. So you've got CBM, who's coming. He's bounced around a little bit, but he started at JUCO, and he's found his way to Auburn, and now he's one of the top players in the league. And then you've got Janai that's coming from a mid-major. And then you've got Chaney, who has been developed as good as any player I can remember. And that's the point Faith was making. I mean, Chaney is now one that if he does get a majority of the minutes and they are in offensive sets where the ball is going through him, Brett, he could average 18 to 20 points a game. With Janai out, I bet you anything with Janai out, as long as he's out, Chaney's going to average 17 to 21 points per game. And what more could you ask for with somebody that's really your sixth man coming off that you're leaning on to carry the team at that point?
No, absolutely. I think you said it. I mean, he some things that I noticed about his game on Tuesday, a jump shot, a 15-footer. You don't even see that in basketball anymore. Everything, the trend is to get to the rim, which is odd. It's Bucky McMillan, Randy. You and I talk about it. Bucky McMillan at Mount Brook, you either got to the rim or you shot a three. If you shot a 10-footer or a 12-footer, you came to the bench. because he's such an analytics guy, and analytics is such a big part of sports now. Everybody in football now, there's a graphic that pops up, on whether to go for it or not. Well, the analytics say it's, you got look, sometimes common sense got to kick in too, but I thought Chaney Johnson pulling up from 10, 12 feet the other night and hitting several shots were key, because Bruce Pearl said you got to win one-on-one matchups against a team like Mississippi State. You can't just work your offense and get a backdoor cut for an easy bucket. Somebody's got to win a one-on-one, and then Chaney's got the length and the ability to shoot the basketball where he can just pull up when you're getting late in the shot clock and make a shot. So, yes, the development there, he's 25 pounds heavier. Doesn't even look like the same guy. And Chad Baker-Mazar works his rear end off, according to Coach Pearl, in practice, and all these guys are working hard. I mean, Denver Jones, all of them that you guys just named are phenomenal. And like Faith said, the defensive and it's the complete team. It's why they're number one in the country. They have – I gave that graphic – I put that graphic up, a couple of weeks ago, Randy, the teams that were 13-1 at the time and had a top 20 defense and a top 20 offense. There was only two of us and Marquette. That was it. And so that's the separator. There's several SEC teams that have a top 20 offense but don't have a top 20 defense, and vice versa. Auburn's the only one that has both. And that's why you see, maybe from night to night, if we're not very good offensively, that defense is going to travel and continue to play well.
I tell you who's good, Brett. You've been saying it all year since we saw them earlier in the season. Iowa State.
And they're
beat
good,
Kansas brains in.
They're good, dude.
I mean, they are.
It will be the best win on our schedule.
I agree. I mean, that is a very, very good basketball team. It looks a lot like us. Physical out on the guard.
I don't want to play them again. I'm just telling you. I mean, they were up 17 on us, and we came back and beat them. And I don't know how. I'll be honest. I mean, it took to the very end of the game to win it. But you're right. I mean, they're really good. All right. Don't make any bones about it, Faith. You hate Georgia. You're from Georgia. You're an Auburn girl. So immediate disdain for Georgia. And Auburn goes to Georgia this Saturday. And you and I were talking before we got on there. You're like, ugh, please don't let them and Ole Miss be the first loss for us. So we'll talk about why Ole Miss a little bit later on. But your roots, your home is in Georgia, but your heart's in Auburn. On the road against a scrappy team that's undefeated at home in Georgia. Mike White does a great job. He was at Florida, and now he's over at Georgia. I like him as a coach. He is starting to turn it around a little bit. Let's just hope he doesn't turn it around against us on Saturday, Faith.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a scrappy game either way with Georgia, and that might just be me saying that because, again, I'm not the biggest Georgia fan at all, but it's also going to be an emotional game. And I feel like when emotions do come into play, there's always it's going to be more physical. There's going to be so much more like intensity with the fans and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like that's definitely going to play a lot into the production that Auburn is able to, lay out there on the floor. But also, I mean, just if the students, are going to be able to go and travel, I feel like that's going to show a lot more support and kind of give them not the same as Neville Arena feel, but also, give them the support that they need. But I mean, again, without Janai playing and all that kind of stuff, we've got to continue the momentum that, they've had. And again, kind of in the beginning of the season too, of just, we've never been a first half team ever. Or as long as I've really been watching, I don't think we've really played it out that first half. That second half is always where I feel like everyone kind of gets into gear. I don't know if it's that halftime talk or what it is, but I feel like going into this Georgia game, the tone is going to need to be set early in the game. I think that's how this game on Saturday is going to need,
especially on the road.
Yeah, 100%. The tone needs to be set right when they step on to when the clock is at 0-0 at the end of the second. But if I feel like if we go out there and start the game with, going up and not losing that momentum, which we kind of have. But as long as that momentum isn't gone, I feel like it will be honestly like an not easy win, but just kind of a better situation.
Well, ESPN, Randy, thinks it's going to be a blowout. I don't know about that.
I think, what Faith said's got to be what Bruce Pearl is preaching, because defensively we have struggled in the first part of the ball games on the road, not at home necessarily.
Yep.
I mean, we're up by 19 at home, but on the road, we look like we're finding ourselves. And then you come out in the second half. I think this past Saturday, we only give up 23 points in the second half. So the adjustments that were made during halftime were the key to the wins. But it would be nice to really get off to a really good start at the first of the game, shooting the ball well, playing well offensively, finding our way, and going to be difficult, though. Like we talked about a little bit earlier, I just got this sense that Athens is getting a little more into the field for basketball than they have in the past. But if they're not, Brett, I'll bring this up to both of you, and Faith being from Georgia. I mean, do y'all think that Auburn fans are able to go over and buy tickets there in Athens as much as you believe so?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think Auburn's going to get a lot of people over there. It's I think anytime again within the 200-mile radius, I think you're going to see Auburn take the road, man. And they're going to fill this up. That Kentucky, man, everybody hates Kentucky. And, boy, they love to come to Auburn because they could about fill up the whole arena. I mean, if back in the day, Kentucky said, do we play Auburn on the road this year, please? Because I know y'all don't fill up Beardy's Memorial, but we will. And, like, you would come out. I remember going to some games, and it wasn't nothing but blue and white in there. And it wasn't the right color blue. And it felt like, well, this has got to be what it feels like to be at Rupp Arena, and I'm in Auburn. Because we sucked and they didn't, and they ate every ticket up they could get.
So, Faith, you think Auburn fans are going to be able to get tickets, and there'll be a big turnout for Auburn in Georgia?
I mean, absolutely. And I know a lot of Auburn kids love going to Athens just because of, the college scene there. It's a lot bigger than it is here. So I feel like a lot of people go and they make a whole trip out of it and all that kind of stuff. So I definitely think there's going to be plenty of people that are going over there and
that's great
supporting.
Yep. Check the road. If you can get over there this weekend. Hey, the game's at noon too, by the way, which it's not as big a deal as it is in football, but it is the earliest game. And I know how students are, even in the winter. Look, I know what you do on Friday nights. And you wake up, that 12 is a little bit early.
What Faith is saying is they're going to go ahead and take those spirits on over to Athens on Friday night and then just kind of
I'm talking about Georgia's kids. I'm talking about Georgia's kids.
Well,
I hope they're all up in a cave somewhere. And then, Auburn people just come right on in and snatch up all the tickets and get everything they can to get in there, because that South Carolina environment was stupid. I didn't realize it when I was watching it, how much of a discrepancy it was.
You couldn't hear it on air.
But then you could see some people with Twitter. When you go back and watch that video of Pringle at the line, and I criticized him. I said he sounded stupid in the post-game press conference. I screenshot it and sent it to y'all. I said, hey, look at this idiot. He's saying that, it was a tough environment out there tonight. And I'm thinking, man, you're at home. What are you talking about? And then I saw the video and went, well, I overspoke. Like, it sounded like he was on the road, and he missed both of them. And so Duke sent a memo to their fans to don't ever do that again. And when does Duke scold their fans? When it sounded like it was an away game in Cameron Indoor Arena. So I'm just telling you, Auburn fans are making noise and they're showing up, and beware out there, all you mid to low tier basketball programs. We're coming for your house. We're trying to invade your territory. And that's what Auburn fans are doing. Let's look up again. Jeff said, and I put this up just a minute ago, crazy thing, Auburn is actually driving up ticket prices in road arenas. And they are, because they're showing up and they're buying these tickets, and fans go, well, crap, our team sucks. I'm going to make a few bucks. I'm going to sell it to this crazed Auburn fan that's coming over here to watch this game. Glenn said we were up 10-0 against Arkansas. I don't clarify that for me, Glenn. I don't know. Are you talking about back in the day when we went on the road and jumped up 10? I remember this 2 years ago when we went to Georgia. We had to have a KD Johnson last second layup to beat them. You remember how good we were 2 years ago and how tough a road game that was. Tony said, off topic question, Montgomery Catholic going back to back state titles, will they be bumped up to 6A in the next reclass? I don't know.
They've already
went from 4 to
bumped
5.
From 4 to 5 and won 5. So yes, you keep bumping. You look at Bayside Academy with their volleyball program. What are they playing in now, Brett? Are they in 6 or 7A? Bayside's a 3A school.
Bayside's in 6A right now
in volleyball.
Yep, they'll probably
you can. Tony, probably get to 7. Keep going all the way up to 7 if you keep winning championships.
It's crazy. R. Stu said, any predictions on what the line will be for Saturday? I hadn't seen it, obviously, yet. I'm going to say 5.5 Auburn.
I'm going to go more like 8.5 to 10 Auburn.
Okay. I'd like that.
What do you think?
I'd probably go closer with you, Brett. 5.5. 6.5, maybe.
Yeah. Would y'all take it at that?
I don't know. Just because I said it, I don't know if I want to say anything, but the matchup predictor for ESPN has Auburn. This is what I'm saying. I think they think it's not going to be close. 78.6% in favor of Auburn.
They had when we were playing. Who was it? When we were playing. We were playing someone, and they had us at 21, and it went back down to like 3 at one point, and I was like, oh man, they're really predicting that we're about to and I feel like every time that happens, every time we're expected so well, that it's just
Faith, you're thinking of football season.
Yeah. Don't
because that's about what we get.
Don't bring up bad stuff. So we'll stay away from that. Toolman said off another off topic updates on you, BRHS coach. I think
you want me to jump in there, Brett?
Yeah, why don't you please? Just don't let
me take the board member off the talking topic here, so he doesn't say anything out of character. So yes, they've had 8 to 10 really, really great interviews for some of the best coaches in the state. Know the names. Very impressed with the ones that they've been able to bring in. So the options are really strong out there, and I think that talking with Coach Richie Brooks, who I think the world of, who is our athletic director. I had a conversation with him yesterday, and I think that they're hopeful that by, in the next week or two that they'll be able to announce who that coach is. So they've got a chance to work it out with their school, and may not be immediate when they come in. But most of the time when you have a new coach that's hired, they do come in pretty quickly because the school they're going from, I mean, what benefit are they providing there outside of maybe teaching a class or something? And a lot of these coaches, the head coaches, don't teach classes. They're working the weight room and handling a PE period or something. So could be a quick transition when it comes to that. So I'm impressed with the names that have applied, and I know that the group that'll be doing the hiring will do it right.
Well said. Thank you for taking that mantle.
You're
there.
Welcome.
All right. It's perfect time to talk about some more of our partners on the program. And if you haven't been to Bunkers in Auburn on West Glen, I don't know what's wrong with you. You've messed out, but it's never too late. Go to Bunkers in Auburn. Telling you, man, it's a unique experience. It's great food. They got an awesome bar in there. And the bays that you can rent with your buddies and your family or whoever it is, you can hang out in there and you can play those simulations. It's kind of like playing at Top Golf, except you're inside and you're not freezing to death outside during this time of year. So it's the perfect opportunity after an Auburn basketball game or anything. If you want to host a party in there, we know Bunkers. I know Auburn football takes a lot of their recruits to Bunkers when they're showing them the town. So Bunkers is definitely the place. Randy, you and I both know that. And Faith, we got to get you out there for our next On the Location show. I know you'll be joining us out there, but I can attest, Randy, you can too. Bunkers is awesome.
Great food. You better go hungry if you're going there for lunch. Very easy to park in the parking deck. They've got 50 spots there, so makes it a lot easier than traveling all around Auburn, which I was trying to get some business license things taken care of yesterday downtown, and good luck finding a parking spot. And I'll segue there, Brett, into Lee Apparel and Sign Source. Got new locations coming to Auburn. Working on that building. I've got to step off here and let you and Faith finish it out, but it's right there on Opelika Road, right up from the mall. Next door to Laredo's is a building that we'll have where you can come in and do work with us and pick up orders for Lee Apparel and Sign Source. Currently, our number is 256-825-0197, but we'll have a new number, and we'll be doing some of our podcast things from there. Also, another sign business that we're really close to closing out, buying out in the Opelika area that I'll pass along in the short term. I've got some meetings around that this morning. So I can't thank all of you enough that continue to find us on our podcast, Faith. We're thrilled to have you. Make yourself at home. We're going to have some interviews coming forward with maybe some coaches and some players and a lot of new things that are coming your way. So as I step out, thanks for tuning in to the Auburn Blitz.
Hey, Randy, before I let you go, Auburn announced yesterday, and of course, we're going to talk about it. Faith and I'll talk about it here. But Greg Carr and Larry Blakeney both going to be part of the 25 College Football Hall of Fame class. A lot of people don't realize and remember Larry Blakeney played football at Auburn, was a quarterback down there back in the 60s. And then obviously Greg Carr, one of the best to ever line up and do it at linebacker.
Well, Larry Blakeney, also a great assistant coach.
No, we went from 77 to 90.
Yep. Yeah, so he was with us for a very long time, a really good recruiter during that stretch when we were able to build that product up to where the 80s brand of football for Auburn got to. Larry Blakeney was key to that, but Greg Carr is one of my favorites. Just a tackling machine, and he came along with Kurt Crane and many other during that stretch. Quentin Riggins, I can keep going down the list. I mean, Auburn in the 80s had some of the best linebackers in SEC history in about a 12 to 14 year span leading into the early 90s. And I'd like for us to get back there, but it was a wonderful time to be an Auburn fan, especially on the defensive side of the ball, because that's where Pat Dye built that thing. And Greg Carr was one of the keys to getting us over the hump in the early part of the 80s.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Randy, appreciate it, buddy. We'll
Enjoyed
catch up
it.
with you.
Y'all have a great day.
Bye, Randy.
All right, Faith. Again, moving on. We're going to not talk a lot about it, but, feel like we need to. I expected our girls team to be better than it is right now, and it's not. Not the start that, Coach Harris wanted, and at the bottom of the league. And, again, you are who you are 4 or 5 games into the season. And right now the women just sitting there staring at an 0-5 start because they got to take on Texas next, and Texas is number 7 in the country. So does it get any easier in this league? It doesn't matter which sport it is. If it's baseball, football, softball, tennis, golf, it doesn't matter. It's a gauntlet in every one of them, but our women right now not off to a good start.
Yeah, I mean, I wish that they had the same kind of fan base that the men's team does. You know what I mean?
That's what winning does. That's what winning does. They come if you win.
True. Yeah, I mean, I think there's the season that we had last year was not as
well. They were.
I don't remember how the beginning of the season went, but I remember that when it was like halfway through the season that I feel like it wasn't that bad at all.
Well, no, they actually started catching. They actually started playing well, and they played well in the SEC tournament. And the recruiting class that Coach Harris brought in, there was a lot of excitement around this team, and brought in some really good freshmen, and really felt like she had gotten better every year. And look, it's early; they may turn this thing around, and but they've got to start figuring it out because, again, this league, it doesn't get any easier week to week. And so when you continue to dig yourself a hole, it's almost impossible to dig it out. So they need some wins, and I don't expect one coming against Texas. But there's been a key game, Faith, the last 2 years where Auburn, the LSU game last year, the Tennessee game the year before, where Auburn really put themselves on the map, and that's kind of why there's a lot of momentum going into this year. So I know that they're disappointed at where they are currently.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you got to go back. I mean, they've got to go back and kind of watch and see what it is that they've done that hasn't been working, or maybe it's the chemistry on the team in general. But I mean, their TikToks have like popped up my For You page, and so I mean, it doesn't seem like it might be the chemistry. That's just 2-minute TikToks, and maybe, but yeah, I don't really know.
Well, maybe they'll get it figured out. That's for sure. All right, to close out here, want to talk a couple things. First of all, Chet Williams, I know you worked with the Auburn Athletic Department this past fall, Faith, so you were around Chet Williams, the team chaplain, and what he meant to Auburn, and especially the football program, and his service, memorial service, will be January 23rd at Neville Arena. For anybody that wants to go, that'll be at 10 a.m. on January 23rd, just a remembrance and of the legacy of Brother Chet Williams. So, again, our thoughts and prayers go out to his family. A tragic accident down here at Lake Martin. Just we'll never forget hearing that information come across late Sunday night, that Sunday. And, he touched so many people for a long time at Auburn, and it's hard to believe he's gone. So just kind of your thoughts on Chet. I know you maybe didn't have a close relationship, but you were around him in the athletic department.
I mean, Auburn is such a faith-based, community and teams and everything like that. It's just one of those things where no matter how close you kind of were, if it's someone that's part of the Auburn family, it's going to sting no matter what. And just all the things I've heard about him, I didn't know him personally, but all the things that I've heard about him, how he was just such a great guy, and he really put in his time into Auburn and the players and coaches and everything like that. It stings just knowing that something tragic like that happened. It's affected everyone here.
Yeah, it has. So thoughts and prayers continue to go out to his family and to the Auburn family on loss of Chet Williams. Couple more things, Faith. I know that this is crazy. Believe it or not, the college football playoff national championship is on Monday. Is anybody talking about this? I mean, it really, to me, is kind of bizarre. I think the college football playoff committee is figuring some things out with this first year of the 12 teams. And, we'll see. But it's this thing, as it keeps drifting out further away, and it's only down to 2 teams, and basketball's really kind of rolling now, and you're in the heart of the season. I think people have turned their attention. And you got the NFL playoffs. You're going into the divisional round of the playoffs this weekend. I mean, it just feels like the college football national championship has been pushed. Now, again, we don't have a team in it. Notre Dame fans and Ohio State fans may say, hey, y'all can say it's not important, but I just don't feel like it's getting the coverage nationally. I think it's been pushed down to second and third tier. I've watched ESPN. I've watched Fox. I've watched some of these other things. I don't hear people talking about it.
I mean, it's also going to be on the 20th, which is another nationally big day. So I feel like that already is also kind of putting it down on the totem pole for some people. I mean, what are your thoughts on the 12 team playoffs?
I think we needed to go to 12. I think we'll ultimately go to 16. I know that sounds stupid, but I think they'll go to 16 and eliminate the first round bye. I think there's a lot of flaws in the system. I think that if you got a bye, it didn't do you any good to get a bye because you didn't get a chance to play at home. And then the teams that got a bye all got beat. So there's a lot of things that I think they've got to reevaluate. I'm fine with 12. I know it's going to 16, so might as well just go ahead and do it in the offseason and start making some of these changes. I think the problem, Faith, is what we're talking about right now. They played the semifinals on a Thursday and Friday night, okay? And then now you've got the national championship game on January the 20th. I mean, you're 3 weeks away from the Super Bowl. And it's gotten too far away from the season. And that's why you play the sport, is to get to the national championship game. It should be the thing that we've all done in the past, and all the glitz and the glamour, and everybody should be focused on it. And I don't hear anybody talking about it. So I think the schedule, the further you get away from January 1 with college football, the less interested people get. And I hate to say it, and I know people out there watching may think, man, he's stupid for saying that. But I'm looking at the data. I'm looking at what the hype is, and I don't see the hype that I normally see with a national championship game.
I agree with that. I don't think – I mean, it's also on a Monday where there's going to be a lot of students back in school, and like normally you have a watch party or something like that, and everyone.
But they can't put it on Saturday because of the NFL. You know,
right.
And the NFL dominates the market, whether we like to believe it or not in college. The NFL dominates the market. So they kind of get punted to Monday, and everybody's complained about the national championship game forever being on Monday. And it is not a good day. I mean, people are at work, and you know, you come home, you go, oh yeah, the national championship game's on. The ratings, we'll see what the ratings are. I'm predicting one of the lower rated national championship games ever. And it's got two really good teams in it.
Yeah, I mean, it's so far away. I feel like I haven't been to a football game in so long that I feel like it's literally not even football season at all right now. But yeah, I don't think I would love to know how much or how many views the championship had last year, and then how many it ends up having this year, and just kind of seeing, because especially the day that it's on.
Well, I pulled the viewership with the Alabama Georgia national championship game, because we were trying to do a cross comparison of a regional, because Alabama and Georgia is right here in the South. We're like, well, does anybody else care about that around the country? And 28.6 million tuned in for that game, which is pretty good. I mean, it's not outstanding, but it's pretty doggone good comparable to most national championship games. The semifinal game between Ohio State and Texas only got 20.6. So I don't know what this Notre Dame Ohio State game is going to get, Faith. I mean, I think Randy and I both said we thought it would probably garner somewhere around 22 to 23 million, which will be way down, because if you look at the most watched national championship game ever, let me see if you can guess that one. Can you guess that one? I'll just give you a shot at it. The most watched national championship game ever.
It's probably going to have to do with Georgia, doesn't it?
No, it's not Georgia.
Okay.
All right, it's USC and Texas in 06. Reggie Bush and Vince Young. And it got 36 million views. It was by far the number one of all time. So that just tells you that's the best. And then if you go down to 20, 21, 22 million, you're down at the bottom. So I don't know. I mean,
that's crazy. I don't know why I wouldn't have expected it to be that long ago.
Right.
I guess just because there's so many. I don't know. I would not have expected.
Well, I'm going to tell you this, Faith, and again, this is just my theory. I think people are I think they're exhausted with NIL and the portal, and the college football fan loves the sport. They love college football. Now, they have a team that they follow. Most everybody has their allegiance. But on Saturday night, Faith, after Auburn plays, what's on TV? College football. at any party, at any tailgate, whatever. Everybody just likes college football. Well, the diehard college fan is getting tired of the way college football is being played and the business is being conducted. So I think that's another thing. I think that's another, the scheduling and the way college football, the structure of it is causing people to turn it off. And that's not a good thing.
No, because I don't keep up with every single, transfer or something like that, but I'm watching something and I'm like, wait, didn't they just transfer here last year?
Right.
And then now but then the year before they were somewhere else. And it's like, you've got people transferring 3 different times. And I'm like, I can't even keep up. Where's the loyalty to your team?
You just said the word that was about to come out of my mouth.
I can't even get started on NIL. It makes me feel some
way. Yeah. I don't think look, I said this, and I know we're getting toward the end of the program this morning. We got to get off, but the NIL is not my problem. I think it can be regulated. The portal is the problem. The opportunity to leave every 6 months is a problem. When you go through spring football practice with a program, you should not be able to get in the portal in the month of May and go find another team and go play for them in August. I'm sorry, it's wrong.
They go hand in hand though, like the NIL and the portal.
No, they do. No, they go hand in hand, but they need to cut the second window out.
The regulation has to be there has to be some sort of regulation done, I think, immediately, because of the way that the game has changed so much. Whether people think it's for the good or bad or whatever, some people are doing great things with their NIL money, but when people are deciding to stay in college because they're not going to be able to make anything in the NFL,
that's exactly what you're saying.
They're doing now. I think that's where people should see that there's a problem.
They're
making more in college than some of the best NFL players are right now.
Well, look at Carson Beck. He leaves Georgia to go to Miami, and it's because he got $4 million?
Yeah.
$4 million to go play 1 year at Miami. So, yeah, he wasn't going to get that in the NFL. He had dropped off all the draft boards. He was not a top draft pick. So, Miami needed a quarterback after Cam Ward left, so they go snatch up Carson Beck. I did see where Quinn Ewers declared for the draft. So, he thinks he's going to – and obviously his draft predictions and all the things that goes into where you think you might be going in the draft came back favorable for him to make that call. So, but you do have a lot of kids that are extending their time in college because they can get paid more and it's more lucrative. And I never thought we'd ever say that about college football.
There's good things that come from it, but there's also, I think it's just gone too far at this point. But
yeah, there's no doubt about it. Faith, man, it's fun. We are so excited to have you on board with us on the Auburn Blitz. And for people that are watching that maybe didn't catch at the beginning, Faith just graduated from Auburn. She interned with us. She is part of our Auburn Blitz team now. She worked in Auburn athletics this past year. A lot of you maybe heard her on game day, on the interviews, the player interviews that were on the Auburn network. That was Faith. And if you're sitting there going, man, her voice sounds familiar. She did all the interviews with all the players during the season. So we're looking forward to her helping us cover Auburn even better than we do now. Look, again, I'm going to say it like I said it at the beginning of the show. Take a picture, everybody. See where Faith is now, where she's going. She will be on the SEC Network or ESPN or CBS or somewhere. She's got everything that it takes. She's got the knowledge and the ability, and we're excited for your future, Faith. But again, when you make it up there and you take Michelle Tafoya's place or Aaron Andrews' place or whoever's place, you're still going to be part of our team. We're not going to let you leave. Okay.
Of course. Always.
So, well, we're going to get out again. Before we go, we want to thank Scout Program Management, a full-service construction management firm up in Birmingham. They really handle your education construction projects. Most of what they do centers around school design and development. They'll take you from the pre-construction phase through the construction phase. They will be your voice. They'll make sure everything's done right. You can't say enough about having a good team to make sure a massive project like a new high school or a new renovation is done correctly. So Scout Program Management will take care of you on that. And Sensagreen, for air that's cool and clean, call on Sensagreen. They are the carrier experts here in the state of Alabama. So make sure you call on them if you need a new unit. And boy, it's about to be bone chilling cold next week. And if your unit's out there rattling around and it's making some weird noises right now, you need to be calling Sensagreen. You don't need to wait till next week when it drops down to like 18 degrees and there's snow and ice on the ground and you're freezing to death in your house. So call on Sensagreen. Faith, looking forward to it. We really appreciate it.
I'm excited. This is gonna be something fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun, and you're gonna bring a whole new element to it and a new viewpoint that we much need on this show after me and Randy go at each other a lot here on this program. But again, thanks to all of you that watch and listen every morning and throughout the day. We know a lot of you tune us in throughout the day as well. Auburn Blitz, the TV show, will be on at noon again today with Andy and Jim. So make sure you tune that in right here on YouTube, Facebook, and if you got Charter Cable, channel 701 statewide. So Faith, have a good rest of the day, girl, and we will see you tomorrow. War Eagle, everybody.
War Eagle.